It's the Daylight Midnight Show.
Hello and welcome to the Daylight Midnight Show. My name is Greg and it's the first time ever that I've recorded this show after dark. So I can't really call it the Daylight Midnight Show, but we'll put that aside for now. Let's be honest, this year hasn't panned out quite how I would have wanted it to with this show. I wanted to do a series in the first half of the year, a series in the second half of the year. Because of other work commitments, that didn't happen. But the good thing is we've got to just before Christmas and I'm in a position where we can finish off Series 2 with episode 22. This is the season finale. It will be uploaded before Christmas. We can tie a bow on everything and then we can move on in the new year. So welcome to episode 22, the Series 2 season finale. It's going to be sort of in two parts. It's going to be one continuous thing, but there's going to be sort of two sections to this show. The first part is going to be the regular features. We're going to try and tie up any loose ends that might be hanging over from previous shows, tie a nice little bow on the end of it all. And then the second part of the show is going to be the second annual Daylight Midnight Awards show, which is coming your way very, very soon. So let's get on with it then by revealing our wonderful word of the week. Now, this is the first spanner in the works moment for the season finale. Over the course of the year when I've been doing these word of the weeks, what I've been doing is having another file where there are ones that didn't quite make the cut, so maybe there was one where I picked between two words, so I've kept the others and I was going to do my favourites of those. I was going to have on the display cabinet, I was going to have 7 or 8 of those words. I would go through them all with you one at a time and explain them all, and they would be our sort of extra words of the year. But we've been having some technical problems at home with laptops, so I'm going to have to replace my laptop in the new year. And one of the things that happened was that lovely file that I'd saved all the words in disappeared. So you're only getting one, but I think it's a good one. Our wonderful word of the week is the word scribaceous. It means to be enthusiastic about writing. But it also means having the tendency to write a lot or too much. And anyone who's ever received an email from me will know that that is something I am prone to. So our final word of the week for this series is the word scribaceous. From there we always swing round to the Door of Delights. Now I've forgone the topical limerick this week because the stuff I was going to talk about is all in the brown folder. Nothing new on the Door of Delights. A lot of it is faded in the sunlight in summer and autumn. This is all coming down at the end of the show. We'll have a brand new launch of the Door of Delights in the new year, including a brand new outfit roulette. So without any further ado, we will swing round to the brown folder, which of course has its own theme song, which I haven't played for about 2 months, so let me get it right. After today, the Door of Delight's decks will all come down. Let's see what is written in the folder that is brown. Man, I'm out of practice. So there might be quite a bit in the brown folder because it's been a while since we spoke, but we'll get through it all together. So the first thing, this is going back to previous shows. If you remember, I did my favourite flags. I did my Great 8 list where I spent about 3 days looking at every flag of every nation on earth, and then I ranked them in order, but not in order of them as flags, but in order of how I think they would look on your wall as a poster. And under that criteria, the winning flag was the flag of Kiribati, which is an island nation. So I have actually printed that off so that it can be up, and I'm now going to find out that I haven't got any blue tack handy, so what I'll have to do is tuck it there like that. But again, as I said, all this is coming down anyway, so I think I might as well just leave that down for now. But just to prove to you that I did print off the flag and it will be up on the office wall. And something else I mentioned was I think we should design a flag for the Daylight Midnight Show. We should pretend we're our own little nation and we'll have our own flag. And my son, who you might know from some of my videos as Professor Logan, came up with this design. So this isn't sort of a final, it's not in a frame, but this is what he thought of as a good idea for the Daylight Midnight flag, which I like because you can use it either way. So it's Daylight Midnight, or you can have it that way and it looks nice, or you can have it that way. So that is officially the flag of the Daylight Midnight Show, and I'll print that off again and frame it, and that will be hanging up at the start of Series 3. So, some little notes I've written down since the last show. A couple of them are about the last show, so episode 21, so I'll just get through these quickly. Watching it back when I was editing it, I remembered the reason I took those blue glasses off Outfit Roulette. I was wearing my old blue glasses, they're plastic and they always slide down my nose, so half the time you can't see my eyes and half the time I'm pushing the glasses up. But I'd left my other glasses in the car, my wife had the car, so I had to wear those because my eyes have got so bad this year that I wouldn't be able to read anything. So you didn't need to know that, but that just ties back to the last show. And I also wrote a note for myself, which is about episode 21. But it's also a little note for the future as well. Don't do a show when I've got a bad cold, or if I do, I must employ a makeup artist to hide the pale skin and bags under my eyes. I didn't look at my best in the last episode, I must be honest. And the other thing I've written down here is the awful shopping trip. Now, this is something that I mentioned a couple of times on the shows that I wanted to talk about because it's a kind of a good highlight of how bizarre my life can be at times, all through my own making. I can't blame anybody else for this. But there was a shopping trip I did one day that really summed up everything that is bizarre about the way I behave at times, and I wanted to share it with you, but I knew it was going to take a couple of minutes and the shows were already overrunning at that point, so I thought it's the season finale, I'm not worried about the time, the rules are out the window, so I share it with you. So I took a trip into a local town. I think this is in October, early October, and I may have mentioned this at times, but I have a really bad back. My spine is about much use as a colander bathtub, if that works. So every so often I have to go and take extra strong painkillers. I'm not on them all the time. They're not the really ridiculously strong ones you get from the hospital. You can buy them at pharmacies, but because they have codeine in them, which is an addictive substance, you have to go in and ask for them. You can't just buy them, so you can't just end up buying like 3 or 4 packs a week. You have to go in and ask for them. Now, I've done this loads of times over the past few years. They come in a box of 32. I never buy more than a box a year. Never take more than one a day, and I don't use them all the time. But I've got this psychological thing going on in my subconscious where, because there's all this stuff about opioid addiction, and there's such a warning on the label that if you use codeine too much you become dependent on it, I'm really worried about going in a pharmacy and sounding like a drug addict. So this strange persona overtakes me whenever I go in to buy these things. Now all I have to do is go up to the counter and say, "Hello, I'd like to buy a box of Cocodamol," and they will say, "Have you taken them before?" And I say, "Yes, my doctor advised me to take them. I don't take them very often. I'm aware of the risks. Everything is fine." That's all I have to do. But that doesn't happen. I go in and stumble and behave about as much like a drug addict as is possible to do without breaking into a sweat and having the words "I am a drug addict" written above your head. So on this particular occasion, there was nobody else in the pharmacy, but I still, even though I didn't need to buy anything else, walked around looking shifty, picking up other things and deodorant and shaving. Did that for so long that in the end someone from behind the counter went, "Can I help you, sir?" At which point I walked up to the wrong end of the counter. I then stumbled along the counter knocking over charity collection tins, then asked the woman for what I wanted, pronounced it completely wrong, and then when she started saying to me, "Have you taken these before?" I literally felt the cold sweat on my forehead, my hands started shaking, and I went, "Oh, not really, no, but I've been told they're okay and I'll only take one," and then stared at her like a complete idiot. Thankfully, she took pity on me and gave me the box and I paid for them. But I left and walked outside and went, "What is wrong with me? Do I go back in and apologise?" I could not have acted more like an addict if I'd tried. So that was part one of the story. Part two of the story is I was going to do some shopping. Now, there's a reason my wife doesn't let me do shopping on my own, but she was actually isolating because of COVID at the time. So, picture this as a big car park. The pharmacy is here, the supermarket is here, and it's a big car park. I had parked right down the other end of the car park. I'd walked into the pharmacy and went through this terrible drug-addled thing that happened to me when I was trying to buy the Cocodamol. Went back to the car and dumped them, and I've now got to go shopping in the supermarket. So, I walked all the way from the car to the supermarket, and this is one of those ones where you need a token or a coin to get the trolley, and then you get the coin back at the end. So I arrived at the trolley and realised I'd left our token in the car. So I then walked all the way back across the car park, let myself back in our car, got the token out of the glove compartment, walked all the way back across the car park, got the trolley, and then realised I'd left the shopping list in the car. So now pushed with an empty trolley all the way back across the car park to the car, got the shopping list out of the car, pinned it to the trolley, pushed the trolley all the way back to the entrance of the supermarket, at which point I realised I'd left our bags to put the shopping in the boot of the car. So after swearing very loudly, turned round, walked back across the same car park for the 4th or 5th time with an empty trolley, got the back of the car open, took the bags out and got on with the shopping. So the point of all this is, if there is CCTV camera footage on that car park watching my behaviour that day, I'm amazed if I'll ever be allowed back in that town again. And I have to be honest and say, I've avoided it. So I hope that was worth it. That was the story that I wanted to tell for ages. And, you know, if you happen to live in that area and you saw this absolute lunatic walking backwards and forwards with an empty trolley, swearing at himself, that was me. and I wasn't on drugs, even though I was behaving like I was in the pharmacy. So with all that tied up, I'll just check the brown folder. Nothing in there, just a few notes about series through. Let's move on to the real important moment of the show, which is the Daylight Midnight Awards for 2021. Now, excuse me leaning past the camera, but I need my drum machine for this, so we'll just do a quick trial run on this for the drum. Excellent. Okay, so a few categories then of things that have happened throughout this year, my favourites, my least favourites. If you watched last year, you'll know what it's about. We're going to start with some minor awards. So the best film I saw this year, this was a difficult one for me. I watch about 150 films a year. I don't really watch any television, I watch films. The one that has really stuck in my mind that I really want to see again is a film called The Peanut Butter Falcon, which is about a young man with Down syndrome who wants to be a professional wrestler. It's wonderful, it's uplifting, it made me laugh more than any film I've seen in the last 5 years, and it's just a beautiful film. So that was my film of the year. The best thing I bought for myself this year is... I'm well behind the norm with this, but I bought myself a little Bluetooth speaker that I could have around the house, and then I could play tunes from my phone. Everybody else had them 15 years ago. I finally got one, and I'm really glad I did. And I've put here the biggest mistake I made. Now this sounds negative, but I think we learn from our mistakes, right? So the biggest mistake I made is when someone asked me to do a skydive for charity, I said yes. Now I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I raised a bit of money for the charity, but the psychological trauma that I went through in the few weeks leading up to it, especially after it had been cancelled and I had to psych myself up again, that took basically 2 months of my headspace up, of me dreading it and then finally going through with it. So I think that was a bad choice, but strangely enough, I'm glad I did it. The video of it, I did have a video taken as I dropped. I'm going to put on this YouTube channel probably on New Year's Eve to prove to people that I did actually do it. So with that we come to the main awards of 2021, and we start with a negative one again, so I'm going to get it out of the way. The biggest disappointment of 2021, and there are 3 nominations for each category. So the biggest disappointment of 2021. Nomination number 1, COVID is still ongoing. I'm not going to talk about it too much because we're all fed up with it, but I think most of us hope that by the end of this year it would be in a much better position. We are in a much better position, but it's still dominating everything. Biggest disappointment possibility number 2, the Bond film No Time to Die. Controversial choice, I know. I know people who are huge Bond fans who loved this film and thought it was a wonderful end to the Daniel Craig collection. For me though, I went in with high expectations. It was the first time I've been in a cinema in 18 months. I felt that it didn't do things that Bond films should. I felt that it did a lot of things that Bond films should never do, and it made me feel the way a Bond film should never make me feel while I'm watching it, and I was actually bored. It was so long. And number 3, biggest disappointment of 2021, alongside my inability to read this properly, my inability to regularly film the Daylight Midnight Show. I'm quite pleased though with other things going on that we've made it to episode 22 and the end of series 2 just before Christmas. So the biggest disappointment of 2021, the winner is No Time to Die. I'm sorry, I thought it was that bad. It is literally the biggest disappointment I had all year. So category number 2 then, we are into food, which is one of my favourite things. The best new pizza topping of the year. We make a lot of homemade pizzas at home. Every time I make one, I try and do the topping slightly differently. I've tried all sorts of weird things on. Tinned mackerel is a really bad move, but a lot of things work. So these are the 3 possibilities then, the 3 options, the 3 nominations for the best new pizza topping that I tried this year. Number 1, chili flakes. Number 2, corned beef. And number 3, halloumi. Halloumi I love, but I've never tried it on top of a pizza before. The others were a first time try, and the winner of the best new pizza topping of the year, chili flakes. They are actually called crushed something, I can't remember, I meant to bring the thing up with me, something crushed chilies in fact. And I just sprinkle them over the top and it enhances the flavour of whatever else is on the top of the pizza. Probably, I'm not that keen on chili flavour, however, these were about 3 years out of date, which is why I've been using them up by putting them on everything. So that might be why they ended up quite mild, but definitely my favourite of the year, chili flakes on a pizza. Category number 3 this year, the favourite moment of 2021. Now, people will always ask you, what was your best day ever? You know, marriage, birth of your children, a certain holiday, and everyone talks about having like happy times. I increasingly, as I get older, think that life is about these little moments that crop up. And it can happen at work, it can happen in relationships, it can happen with sports events, but just those little couple of hours where you're taken away from everything else, you're absolutely in the moment, and it just feels great. And it could come on the back of something bad that turns out to be okay, like a test result, something like that. But yeah, I think it's all about these particular moments when something great happens that you can look back on that moment. So I've picked 3 of my favourites from the year. So, nomination number 1, sledging with my youngest son in the snow in February. I can't say the word February, by the way. You might have noticed this as time goes on. We'll talk about that in Series 3. But yeah, we had a wonderful snowfall here in February. We had a whole week of deep snow. It was absolutely magical and wonderful. I know people don't like it because it halts stuff and they don't feel safe. They can't get out to the doctors or work. We had a whale of a time, and I was able to go sledging down one of the small hills we've got nearby for the first time in years, and it was great. And in fact, if you look back through the YouTube channel, there's a Daylight Midnight show from back in February where there's some little highlights of me falling off a sledge. So that was one of my favourite moments of the year. Option number 2 is my eldest son getting his updated GCSE results in a phone call. Bit of an explanation. With the pandemic, obviously, schools did everything very, very differently over the past 18 months. So my son had to log into a website to get his GCSE results, and unbeknown to him at the time, there was an error with the way some of the data was input. What these things happen, you know, schools were just doing their best with the time. But because of the A-levels my son wanted to do, he needed a very particular result in his science exam, and he was way below what he needed. So we had an hour of him going, I need to completely change how I feel, what I'm going to do. Can we find another college that will accept him? All this was going on. Then we got a message from the school saying, please be aware there were errors and we're about to update it, so hold fire on what you're doing. And then about an hour after that, he got a phone call from his teacher, which I thought was really good of her to do, saying, sorry Milo, you were one of those ones. We made a mistake. Your result is actually this. And it was above what he needed to get. So literally in that moment, everything changed, and the relief on his face and the joy that that phone call gave him that we were able to share in was a wonderful moment. And the final one, nomination number 3, my mum being signed off by the oncology department. I think my mum wouldn't mind me talking about this. She was treated for cancer a few years ago. The treatment worked, everything was great, but like anybody else that's been through that, you're not given the all clear, you're told you're in remission, and then you have to keep going back regularly for scans and blood tests. The last time my mum had one done in the summer, she got a letter to say, we're happy with everything, we're signing you off as a patient, as far as we're concerned, you're just another normal person, live your life, come back to us if you need to. A little side note on that, we were around my mum's for a barbecue, and 3 hours after we got there, she decided to show me the letter. You know, how are you not telling me that as soon as we arrived? So that was number 3, that was a lovely moment as well. So, those 3 options, all to do with the family, which kind of tells you a lot about who I am and what's important to me. But my favourite moment of the year was the GCSE results one, and anyone that has children of that age will understand exactly why. So moving on then, number 4, the best new taste I have tried in 2021. Again, I like to try all sorts of things. I do weird combinations. If I've never tried something before, even if it sounds horrible, I will give it a go. So these are 3 of my favourites from this year. With apologies to anyone who is vegetarian or vegan. Nomination number 1 is venison and mushroom burgers. Nomination number 2 is chocolate milk mixed with sparkling water, which happened by accident but was a delight. And number 3 is a product called Alpine fries, which you can order from a food store online, which are a particular way of doing chips that you put in the oven and are gorgeous. And I've just realised 2 of these come from the same source, but I'm not going to name them because of advertising and all that kind of thing. So those are the 3 options. The best new taste I have tried in the year 2021. Venison and mushroom burgers. Sorry, Rudolph, but you tasted delicious. So the final one then, the final award in what has been this long award show, this long year for all of us. Number 5, the final award of the year. The song title written by Sting that best sums up how I feel about 2021. I'll say that again. The song title written by Sting that best sums up how I feel about 2021. Nothing to do with the song itself or the content, but literally the song title taken as a phrase, summing up how I feel about this year. Nomination 1, Don't Stand So Close to Me. Nomination 2, Fragile. And nomination 3, When the World is Running Down, You Make the Best of What's Still Around. And our final award of the year, the final category, the song title by Sting that best sums up how I feel about 2021. Don't Stand So Close to Me. And if only people hadn't, maybe we wouldn't be in the mess we're in now. So anyway, I said I wasn't going to mention all that. So yeah, that's it for the awards, that's it for the show, that's it for the series, that is it for the year, my friends. Have a fantastic Christmas. If you're watching this after Christmas, all the very best for 2022. I hope to be back with Series 3. We'll let you know the date when we get it. So a rhyming couplet to end all this with then. My favourite pizza topping of the year was chili flakes. I didn't get to film a show each week, but them's the breaks. I will see you next year. Have a great Christmas. And I forgot to do the drum rolls in the awards. Damn it.